against evolution, blah, blah. No, I think that the fundamental threat that they pose is the threat to belief itself. They are if you want to read a text where really the last traces of true, authentic belief disappeared, it's the fundamentalist text. Again, we are in the field of knowledge there. Articles of faith are treated as simple, positive knowledge. That's the true danger. And it's a very nice paradoxical situation, in a way, where those who pretend to be, again, the most religious ones have already betrayed religion. Okay, what I wanted to do is just to report to you into what I wanted to do, but I will cut it short now because I still want to. One thing I wanted to explore also is the structure of these disavowed materialized beliefs. How? I think that we have at this level what I'm tempted to call the institutional unconscious, in the sense, not in any mystical Jungian sense of collective unconscious, but a set of implicit presuppositions, desires, beliefs, which are disavowed by an official ideological edifice, but are part of the institutional logic. And here we also enter a very painful domain, for some Catholics at least, because, for example, I'm more and more convinced that all these cases of pedophiliac scandals among the Catholics, prove that this pedophilia is not simply something which happens to Catholics, to Catholic priests as a simple fact of life, in the sense of even if I become a priest, what can I do? I'm still human, so this haunts me, and so on and so on. I can even, to be extremely vicious, imagine an ordinary heterosexual guy who becomes a priest and then turns slowly into a pedophilia, because it's something in the logic it's not the private unconscious, it's the set of unwritten obscene rules inscribed into the institution itself. That's one line I wanted to pursue. Another line, which is my favorite philosophical line, I don't have time for it, it's to define this knowledge, this implicit knowledge that we possess without knowing it, if you want, or rather, sorry, now I'm making a mistake, I was criticizing this implicit belief in the Hegelian terms of self-consciousness. Namely, I was surprised reading Hegel's theory of state about how precise Hegel is there. When Hegel says that state is a self-consciousness of the people, and so on and so on, usually Hegel is read there as kind of a ridiculous spiritualist, implying a kind of a mega-spiritual, mystical, spiritual subject, whatever, who runs the show behind. No, what Hegel means is something very materialist there. For Hegel, self-consciousness simply means a refractive registration, in the sense of you don't do it, you at the same time register it reflectively as a symbolic act. What do I mean? Let me give you a totally vulgar example. Most of the people who have jeans, wore jeans today, or, for example, in Slovenia, my countries, many people now it's fashionable to have Land Rovers and so on and so on. People live in the city and travel mostly from the suburb to the center, but in a Land Rover. So they don't need it. So it's in order, as it were, to make a statement. You know what I mean? It's not just a utilitarian fact. Even or precisely when you are dealing with objects which declare themselves as pure utility. It's not fashion, it's just useful. But they already declare their utility. This is for Hegel self-consciousness. It has nothing to do with individual awareness. For Hegel, this means that the state is not just an instrument, but has to register, declare its status through public rituals, and so on and so on. And Hegel is here very materialist when he emphasizes that this has nothing to do with people effectively being aware of it. Hegel, in some of his notes, which are only now published to his philosophy of right, evokes an example of a state parade, for example, state ritual, where even if all the individuals are thinking about their private affairs, whatever, not aware, still, the ritual as such is self-consciousness of the state. In this sense, to give you an idea, in the Hegelian sense, the symptom is the subject's self-consciousness. Let us say I'm convinced in something, whatever. But then, through a symptom, I undermine it. Let's just say I think I love my wife, but I produce a symptom which embodies my secret, disavowed, I'm not aware of it, hatred, whatever, of my wife. This symptom is, in the Hegelian sense, the moment of my self-consciousness. In this sense, you know what I mean? We have, again, a certain knowledge of which I'm not aware, but which exists out there objectively. So, all these paradoxes, I think, again, are crucial for how ideology functions today. The reason I engaged in this way is to, again, to make you skeptical about this easy disposition of ideological positions today, where as if the opposition is between, I don't know, fundamentalist belief or liberal skepticism, hedonism, and so on and so on. It's not like this. I think that it's not like this, that in a way, precisely cynics or hedonists are usually, in their practice itself, believers. So again, I think that this strange category of belief which exists objectified in our acts, even if we publicly mock it, make fun of it, and so on, it's the key to analyze today's society, the key to how ideology functions in a post-ideological era. I'm sorry if I was too long, but on the other hand, I'm not sorry because that's my nature. Thanks very much.
And so it is with Brother Slavoj, that he's eclectic to the core. How does one make sense of all of these fascinating moments and epiphonic moments in which you're trying to weave things together? So I'm going to try to take this moment to be a bit pedagogical. I'm trying to say something educational in the sense of the context to grasp what you have given us. Because as a public intellectual who transgresses the disciplinary division of knowledge in our academy, and therefore there's no way that we can subsume what you have just presented under any discipline.
In other words, it was a total confusion, or what?
Well, no, because certain disciplines are highly confused, so it might be providing certain illumination and understanding much better, absolutely. But it also is a way of traversing various publics, that your mode of presentation, the very genre itself, brings us in, it lures us in, it summons us in to your discourse, so that it's both academic, but it's also journalistic, it's also popular culture, it's also high culture, it's anecdotal, it's full of jokes, but there's a deep sense of the comic that's operating. But what I want to highlight first and foremost is the philosophical framework, and it has so much to do with the story about the chicken. That what I've always loved about your work is that you are unabashedly old-fashioned in your philosophical orientation. And what I mean by that is that in a moment in which, especially on the left, people are post-Marxist and postmodern and post-psychoanalytic, you are modern to the core. But when he writes phrases like, German idealism is the unsurpassable horizon of our philosophical experience. So from Kant to Hegel, that's where the good stuff actually resides. You can play footsie with various postmodernist writers, but when you want substance, you're going to have to go back to the German idealists. What were the German idealists dealing with? Well, let's just look briefly at your favorite text, I think, or one of your favorite texts, the great text of 1809 of Schelling's treatise on the essence of human freedom. That's the text that Heidegger says shattered Hegel's logic before Hegel published the text. Undermined the older form of German idealism. Why? Precisely because, like the chicken in us, it highlights the traumatic core of the modern subject. And in many ways, what I see in your work is the centrality of the catastrophic, the monstrous, and the traumatic. And even Jacques Lacan is a kind of means by which you force us to come to terms with the traumatic. And postmodernist moves of cynicism and relativism and nihilism and so forth are simply modes of evasion that somehow don't want us to come to terms with that traumatic core. And what's distinctive about that text of 1809 is not only the text was written at a moment in which his wife was dying, Caroline, who was the wife of August Schlegel, who he had seduced after having